All right, I might get started. So good morning, everyone. My name is Nikki, and I am here with my colleague Abdullah. We are from Griffith University at the Gold Coast campus, which is just, if you're not familiar with this area, it's probably just over an hour south of here, right near the beach, though we never go to the beach. And today we're going to be talking about our workshop that we've developed. We developed it about 3 years ago now. Yeah, we run that for our students. So we're actually in the School of Pharmacy and Medical Sciences. So I'm a biostatistics lecturer. Abdullah's a chemistry lecturer. So we don't actually teach maths, but this has come through that work. So in terms of who our students are, so we are within the health faculty at Griffith, and our students tend to be pharmacy students, biomedical science, medical laboratory science, and a few others, which means that we've got a wide range of capabilities, learning backgrounds, entry scores. We've got a real mixed bag, which makes it quite interesting to teach. And the courses that we teach are either first year or second year in those degrees. Being health students, it also means that when they get to uni, they are expecting to be doing biology and health sciences and not so much maths. And so they get to uni, they get to our courses, and they go, what the heck is this? I thought I'd finished high school and didn't have to touch maths again. So that can be a bit of a shock to the system. We also, a few years ago, a lot of unis have moved to removing prerequisites. So back when I did my undergraduate degree in biomedical science, you needed that senior level maths. That's no longer the case. And while the maths that we're doing in our courses isn't that year 11 and year 12 level of maths, it's that familiarity, it's that comfort with encountering mathematical concepts that we're seeing the students don't really have as often. And then we've got in these degrees, probably the two courses that have the most maths concepts would be biostatistics, which used to be first year, now it's a second year course, and then our first chemistry course. Again, that's what we both teach, but that's where we were seeing students really struggle, and we needed to find a way to support those students. At Griffith, we, for decades now, have had a maths short course that was offered by our science faculty. But I used to teach into that, and I found that there were a few gaps that I thought that we could fill by developing this workshop. So some of those things were the timing of it. It was 2 weeks before commencing students started, so 2 weeks before orientation, and our international students weren't in the country then. They were quite expensive, so quite a big outlay, and that nowadays is quite important. And then probably the biggest one was the lack of relevance to our students. So this workshop used to cover all sorts of maths concepts that our students didn't actually need. And again, then that, like Mark had spoken about with maths anxiety, we were seeing students getting quite anxious because they couldn't do these concepts that they're encountering in this support workshop. And it actually made no difference to their future. So for example, things like doing quadratic equations, we didn't need them to be able to do that, but their inability to do that was quite stressful to them. And it started, their very first experience at uni was, I can't do what uni expects me to do. So that was something we needed to address. I also found that at least that particular workshop didn't acknowledge how students were feeling about their maths experiences, either currently in that workshop or previous. So I remember the teacher of that used to go, see, it's simple. And these students are sitting there going, oh, it's not simple. And it really was quite dismissive. And I really wanted to make sure that we could foster a space where their past experiences, their maths anxiety, their learning disabilities were acknowledged and supported there. Also found that it was a week-long course, and the students got support in that week, and then there was nothing thereafter. No skills that they could carry with them, no real resources. And so again, wanted to address that. And last point I have there is I really wanted to reframe that internal narrative that we would often see with students. The things like, I don't have a maths brain, so I can't do this. That one was a big one. A lot of them have had experiences where teachers in high school have told them they couldn't do it. And so they came into uni going, I can't do this. And so we wanted to reframe that. All right, so what did our workshop look like? Well, we deliver it in orientation week over 3 to 4 days. That last day does tend to be more of a consolidation day, come and get support over stuff that you've struggled with. And for most of our students, they are commencing students. We do also students that have failed the biostatistics course or the chemistry course, we invite them. So they're the ones that won't be commencing. We try to make it low cost. So it's less than half the cost of the other course that's currently offered. And even with that, we give them half of the money back at the end of the workshop if they complete it. So yeah, we want to keep it low cost. The cost is mainly there to cover our costs and to make sure they have that buy-in and that commitment. We do also try and keep our numbers quite low so that we can make sure that they get that individual support, which, when they're in other courses that there's 700 students, they're not going to necessarily get that individual support. So we want to definitely make sure in this that we do that. So when we do our workshop, before they get started, we do some pre-workshop questions, which are there for us to get a baseline of where students are at, but probably more so for the students to see where they're at. So it covers those key concepts that we're going to address in the workshop. And you can see that's an example there of one of the concepts we need them to have is the ability to rearrange an equation. So we see if they can. And we also have for each question, I think there's about 20 questions. For each question, we get them to rate how difficult that they found that question. At the end, we ask them again. And again, that's supposed to help them start thinking about how they're feeling about the concepts. Then when it comes to the actual maths workshops where we're going through those, we make sure the topics that are covered are going to be relevant to their degrees and to the courses they're going to do. So there's nothing, we've gone through the curriculum of each course and made sure that we're not going through any maths that's superfluous to their needs. And then what we've tried to do is explicitly link it to things they will do. So you can see I've got 2 examples there. The top one is for the chemistry course, bottom one's for the stats course. This concept was, again, rearranging equations. So we show them how to do that. And then what we do is, then they actually have that when they encounter it in those courses, they can come back to the resources that we've done, and they can see it again We also go back over those pre-workshop questions and we go, okay, we've taught you the concepts of rearranging an equation. You didn't know how to do this in the pre-workshop questions. Try it again. Can you do it? This is how you do it. And then after the workshop, we do post-workshop questions. Same skills, different letters or numbers, but it allows them to see that pre-post, and same thing for us. That's the maths side of the workshops, but for the mindset side, I've heard a few people talk about Carol Dweck with growth versus fixed mindsets. I actually came across it through Joe Boaler, who speaks more about growth mindsets in terms of mathematical thinking and mathematical learning. But if you aren't familiar with their work, some of the core concepts we bring into our workshop is the value of struggling with maths, that there is value in doing that and it's good for your learning. The idea of you might not be able to do it now, but it's that you can't do it yet. So that word yet is a big thing in our workshop, and that there's no such thing as a maths brain. Everyone can do maths and can do maths to high levels. And again, trying to reframe that narrative. So we do this workshop. We go through things like the research. I know when I was a student, didn't give a poop about the research, but some people do. So we do that, but we also do activities where we get them to rate their thoughts and beliefs about different things and see where they sit on that growth mindset spectrum. But where I think I and students find the most value is just discussion. Hearing other students talk about their experiences and seeing that they're not alone in feeling the way that they feel, or that, you know, they've had similar experiences at school. So that's been really great. And then we also have a workbook that goes even deeper than what we have time for in the workshop. And we encourage them through the week to go through those concepts and those exercises a bit more. So in terms of engagement, more than 90% of our students do the whole workshop beginning to end, which is great. And we see in that pre-post workshop questions, we see an average of about 30% improvement in marks there. We've seen that students seem to value and rate the resources, the teaching staff, and the value for money quite highly. So those are average scores there out of 5. So we're quite happy with that. And then I guess a bit more longitudinally, we have compared our students to students that didn't do the workshop but had similar entry attributes. And we found that when they go and do the chemistry and stats, they have higher pass rates than students that didn't do the workshop, and that we are managing to retain them at the uni. So we've got like a dashboard that puts them as high risk of being lost, and we've seen that our students, relative to students that didn't do the workshop, move from high risk to low risk. This is one of my favorite bits of data. So in those pre-workshop surveys, we asked them, you know, use 3 to 5 words to describe your thoughts and feelings about maths related activities. And you can see there, not very positive feelings. No one there, I think, oh, one did say excited. Okay, but that's not the general feeling. But then we asked them exact same question, haven't changed the wording, exact same thing after they've done the workshop. And we see that change in sentiment. And that's exactly what we want them to have those experiences so that they take that forward into their degrees. It's not all roses. So the one thing we do struggle with is low uptake. So students are electing to do this. We aren't forcing them to do it. But we definitely want more people to do it because there's definitely more people that need to do that. And then I'm sure many can identify with this. So it takes a lot to administer a course like this. And we don't, in our faculty, we don't get much in terms of recognizing that time. It's considered just service rather than teaching. And so, yeah, considering how much work it involves for us, we struggle with getting that recognition. Still think it's worth it. We'll still keep offering it despite those challenges. So things we want to do with the workshop is even though there's the administrative load with it, we want to stay in touch with our students more and be touching base with them as they're doing those high-risk courses. You know, remind them of resources, remind them of those experiences, and again, just continue to offer support. And then this is a more recent thing that we're thinking of doing is building a Gen AI agent that will allow that on-demand support that students need. But that will, again, point them back to the resources that we've given them. So if they're struggling with the concept in biostats, and it's something that we covered in the workshop, that it will point them back to it. Also because you can give the agents different personas. We're talking about making sure that there's lots of reinforcement about those growth mindset principles, that its responses are encouraging them with that. And the good thing with some of these agents now is you can get analytics from them. And so that'll be really great for us to see how that's going to be used. So some very friendly people. Abdullah and I would love to hear from you if you have any other questions about this, or if you have opportunities for collaborating. Yeah, please feel free to either scan that QR code or use that link to get in touch with us. But thank you very much. And yeah, any questions? Definitely, we've considered it. So we could offer it for free. We would then have to take out anything that you know we pay for. But some of those are just more about making the environment a bit more comfortable. So things like we buy food, snacks, coffee, that sort of thing. So we would remove that. But probably the number one reason why we make a cost is to encourage that buy-in and commitment from students. So, I mean, they're paying lots of money for their degrees and they don't necessarily show up for that. Whereas we find if there is this cost, they go, oh, I've spent $100. I've got to go. Yeah. It is $100, yes, but we give them half of that back at the end. So let's call it 50. Yeah. Yeah, we do. Yeah, and on the registration page, there is information there. So I can't remember the exact wording, but it says something along the lines of if for financial reasons you need additional support, please reach out. And we are very happy to offer it for free. They just need to contact us and ask for that. Yeah, thank you. Bye. Yes. So for most students, they're commencing students. The exception to that would be any students that fail the chemistry or the biostatistics course, we invite them to the next offering. So they will be students that have already done uni. Mm. Mhm. Mm-hmm.
The German community that you work with, they realise that it's now crucial for them to affect the way it's done. So perhaps you're not, I'm just wondering whether the designer would think for that. Are there opportunities for those students later on when they've suddenly gone, oh God, now I'm ready to because that's what we find in
Yeah. Mm. It's an excellent point. I think maybe because our communication has been quite targeted. We get their email addresses and we email them. I guess we could advertise it a bit more broadly, like, broader communication channels to try and capture those. I know we have had a student, she was doing a master's, so she'd actually finished all these courses, and she had an excellent experience and came out of it going, oh, wow, this has opened my eyes to the relevance, how the growth mindset stuff, she absolutely loved seeing it that way. Yeah. And I guess had the experience that we hoped all students, and she had finished our degree. But then I think she went on to medicine, and so has taken that into med. Yeah. Thank you. I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Later. And so that's the balance. So previously, another colleague has offered in the chemistry course in particular, workshops through the trimester. But again, I think students just get so busy when they're doing all these other courses that, the uptake there was probably even lower than what we get. So that's why we chose orientation week, where it's close to the start, but no other classes can distract them. We try not to do it when there's big orientation activities. That's there, but that's also why we want to have those resources there that they can access later. So they might not need it before uni starts, but while they are encountering that in maths, in chem or stats, that they can go, oh, I remember rearranging equations. Let me go back to that resource. Yeah. Yep. Just at the back. Oh. No, it's more commencing students. Yeah, which I think is very interesting, because I know if I failed a course, I would do everything I could to make sure I'm successful next time. But no, that hasn't been our experience. Yeah, interesting, eh? Yeah. I don't think that's a question in our survey, hey, why they are taking it versus not. No, I mean, it would be good to know, but it's hard to, especially the ones that don't. I guess finding out why they don't would be quite tricky. Yeah.